So next up, podcast listeners. Climate change is about control. You think? I've thought this for a long time. Climate change is about control. And there's no better way of understanding that than if you ever listen to someone from the left say, we only have 10 years to live. Now, I got to tell you something. I don't talk about this often, but as a legislator, I will hear other legislators on the other side of the aisle say just that. And they've been saying this. We only have 10 years to live. They've been saying it for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, but it's still 10 years. We only have 10 years. Well, John Kerry, he has some different views on this. He's actually counting down the clock and making it sound like it's so catastrophic and biblical that the end of time will be here. And so he talks about the stringent policies that must be put into place. Look, I just said climate change is about control. That's what this segment is about. And listen closely to what John Kerry is saying. This is what the left believes. And we have that clip, and here it is.
But we know from the measurements, from the statistics, from the science, that emissions globally rose over the years since Paris. 2020 saw a drop in global emissions due to COVID, but already they're again on the rise. And many analysts expect a very quick rebound to where we were, rising even more unless very stringent policies are put in place.
Unless very stringent policies are put in place. Many analysts say, who are the analysts? Experts say, same old crap, right? It's the same old, scare tactics. Experts say that they never, of course, bring these people forward. And of course, a good network would actually do that, right? I think that was NBC. A good network would actually say, well, let's bring some experts. Let's bring experts from both sides of the issue, and let's listen to what they say to find out if we need to put lots of new stringent policies in place, as John Kerry says. What the heck does that mean, stringent policies? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But first up, we have another clip from good old John Kerry, and he says there's an even greater sense of urgency because we need to stop rising temperatures. According to John Kerry, we can do that. We have that clip. And here it is.
So to be on track to keep even a 66% probability of keeping global temperatures from rising more than 1.5 degrees, to do that, we need to cut global emissions in half by 2030. So that means we need to phase out coal 5 times faster than we have been. We need to increase tree cover 5 times faster. We need to ramp up renewable energy 6 times faster. We need to transition to electric vehicles at a rate 22 times faster. You get the drift? Everything has to be done with greater sense of urgency, with the determination that we have to win this fight.
This guy is so arrogant. You get the drift? You get the drift? In other words, every aspect of life will change if we give government the power to do this under the guise of climate change, because climate change is really about control. And it's about scaring the heck out of people and convincing them that their lives will, I don't know, be ending soon. And we have that clip too, because here's John Kerry saying just that. It's the end of time. It's the end of time. Imagine if you are someone who, I don't know, really doesn't have any kind of deep faith in anything, and you take on the climate change issue as kind of your faith, kind of like your religion, and you believe it, but you believe it just because you hear it again and again without any kind of true counterbalance or counter story from different experts. And you only read one journal, and you only watch MSNBC, or you only watch John Kerry, or you only watch Joe Biden or AOC. Nonetheless, here's John Kerry talking about the end of time. Here it is.
We are absolutely, clearly, without question, now inside the decisive decade. Hundreds of millions of people will be forced from their homes, forced from their habitat.
So hundreds of millions of people, according to John Kerry, will be forced from their homes and forced from their habitat. He actually believes this, okay? So we're talking about, is climate change, and climate change is completely about control. let's talk about another thing that they're trying to control using climate change as the argument. Bill Gates says rich countries should be eating 100% synthetic beef. Bill Gates says rich countries should be eating 100% synthetic beef. Here's the story. Bill Gates is arguing that the world's wealthiest countries should ditch beef for plant-based alternatives to fight global climate change in a recent interview with MIT Technology Review. Yes, so you wonder what your kids are learning in college. While he explained the 80 poorest countries still must rely on real meat consumption, the Microsoft co-founder says the future should be plant-based for developed countries. I do think all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef. You can get used to the taste difference, and the claim is they're going to make it taste even better over time, said Gates. Eventually, that green premium is modest enough that you can sort of change the behavior of people or use regulation to totally shift the demand, the Microsoft co-founder told the MIT Tech Review. So climate change is really all about control, but not just control of the things that we thought they wanted to control, like what kind of power you get to use, but now it's what you can eat. It's now what you can farm. It's now where you live. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta tell you, if this doesn't scare the living hell out of you, I don't know what will. And of course, you have the one side of the fence with, the John Kerrys of the world that are trying to scare the heck out of people on the left that they're going to die now in 9 years. At least John Kerry is counting down, right? Because 2 years ago he said 10 years, but now it's 9 years. I guess really it should be 8. And then on the other side, you have folks who really aren't watching this issue of climate change and understanding what the left is really trying to do to their lifestyles. And what the left is really trying to do is to herd them into an area and have them live in who knows what kind of, I can't even figure it out. You're supposed to live only where they tell you to live? Yes, apparently so. You're supposed to eat only what they are telling you to eat? Yes, apparently so. And of course, as you might imagine, Bill Gates, what is he doing? He's investing in some of these companies that make these synthetic meat products. He's investing in massive amounts of farmland. Look, we have to look at what is motivating the climate change people. I believe it's all about money. I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't areas of the country where the water level is rising, because of course we know that it is. I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't storms that do seem extreme. I do believe they are. But do we believe that as a result of those things that are happening, that we should allow the left to completely control every aspect of human life, where we live and what we eat, and what kind of car we get to drive, and whether we get to be on airplanes, and whether we get to go on vacations, and where we get to go, and whether we have freedom of movement? We really have to ask ourselves that question, because as soon as we cede the high ground on the climate change issue, we're ceding all of our personal freedoms. And that's really something we have to look closely at. And that is, climate change is about control.